Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Ancient City. My name is Daskalos, and I'm a professional archaeologist and certified interpretive guide. And today, we are going to do something a little different. Today, we're going to do the interpretation. So before we get started, I want to point out a few things and talk about some assumptions that are going to be made. First off, this city is divided into quadrants here. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that the city was divided into quadrants when it was in use. This is an arbitrary division that I made based on the fact that, from above, it has a plus sign type shape to it, dividing it evenly into quadrants. It is, of course, possible that the city was divided into quadrants when it was in use, but it could have also been divided in half, or even into smaller neighborhoods, and I'm using quotes on neighborhoods. All of this is to say, don't take my divisions of the city as something that would have been done while the city was in use. It was just easier to divide and conquer when it came to the work Oda and I did. I also keep referring to the place as a city, but we don't actually know that. I'm just going to refer to it as the ancient city or the city, simply because it's the name by which it's known. But by no means should we assume that this is an actual city the way we think of it. The next thing I want to point out is a big assumption that I'm going to be making. I'm going to assume that the chests in the structures hold the items that were found in those specific structures. There's no wood in this place that survived from when it was in use, yet the chests are made of wood. So we can assume that either the chests are a later addition, like the Dark Oak Towers, or the chests were treated in such a way to allow them to survive. If the chests were a later addition, I'm going to assume that they were placed in the structure and then all the items found in that structure were placed in the chest. If the chests are an original addition, it is a safe bet to assume that this means that those items in those chests came from that structure. Either way, the assumption is going to be made that the items in the chests come from the structure from which the chests are sitting in. And to be honest, I think that's a safe bet. It doesn't make sense to put items in a chest that are from the other side of the map. Another assumption I'm going to be making is that this is the only city. Well, sorta. As you know from episode 1, we are rebuilding this city and not worrying about the harm that may cause because there are hundreds, if not thousands, of ancient cities in this world. However, when it comes to the restoration of the structures within the city, we've worked off of the assumption that there are no other cities for us to base our predictions on. I realize that that might be a weird way of going about it. Are there other cities? Are there not other cities? You know, that kind of thing. But I want you to understand that archaeologists don't always have other settlements to base their assumptions on. And even when they do, you cannot assume homogeny. And of course, they certainly don't have structure blocks, so all of you who keep suggesting that, please stop. That's not the point of this series. Furthermore, even if I were to use other cities for reference, their generation is different in every instance, which means that the interpretation of this city here is only for this city. And I'm going to repeat that. The interpretation of this city is only for this city here. You cannot take my interpretation of this particular ancient city and apply it to every other ancient city in every other world. So, don't come into my comments section with, well, the ancient city in my world has X, Y, and Z, so you're wrong, because that's just stupid. We wouldn't assume that downtown New York City is the same as downtown Cottonwood Falls, Kansas, population 850, would we? Weird shout out to Cottonwood Falls, Kansas, I guess. So with that being said, let's get into it. Okay, so here we are at Red A1. Now I want you to notice something about this place. We have 2 stories. Well, technically 3 if you count this bottom one as a story as well. This is more like a half, well, this is more like first story, that's second story, and this is like a half story almost in between. Anyways, doesn't matter. I just want to point out the fact that this is a fairly large building with multiple stories. That's going to come in to play later on, so keep that in mind. Okay, you'll also notice that we've got this sort of altar looking thing here with chests on either side, a left and a right, and when you come up to this altar looking thing here, you have sort of the same thing with left and right fires. Now, what does that say? That says a lot of things. We could assume that because this altar looks a lot like the altar on the first floor, or the half floor, I guess, and it's got a left and right, that they sort of correspond with each other. So maybe that left chest corresponds with this left fire. Maybe this right fire corresponds to that right chest. The reason why I bring it up in that way is because when you look at these chests, you have a lot of things in them. Matter of fact, this is probably the most full chests in the entire city, right? Both red buildings have incredibly full chests. And what do you see? You see bones, you see coal, you see amethyst shards, bottles of enchanting, echo shards, glowberries, record. Other side is a, fairly happy sounding thing. On this one, it's a lot of the same stuff. Bones, coal, candles. You even have a lead and diamond horse armor, which is interesting. Let's talk a little bit about monumental architecture. Now, monumental architecture are very large structures built for public or ceremonial use. Now, these structures are usually significantly larger than residential units in the surrounding areas. And this is important because residential units can usually be built by a small group or even a couple of people, whereas monumental architecture usually requires the coordinated work of many people and oftentimes the use of specialists as well. Now, this coordination would have required an administrative system capable of organizing a large workforce. And this is important because it suggests that there is some sort of political hierarchy within this society that utilizes some form of administration. That will definitely come up again later. And why would you build this very large structure? Well, I think the key lies in these altars, these altar looking things. You've got candles, which you can get from the box. See, there's a candle. There's a candle, or many candles, and you can put them in here. You've also got this, which, come on, this is a depiction of the warden's head. That's exactly what the warden's head looks like. And as we move around this city, you'll see a lot of depictions of the warden, specifically warden body parts or the body itself. So we've got a head here, we've got something that looks like an altar, we've got something that looks like chests, and we've got something up here that looks like an altar, and instead of chests, we have fire. Now, if I were to take one of these items and throw it on that fire, it would probably get burned up. I don't know, I haven't tried because that'd be messed up. Now, keep in mind, I also am in a creative world. It just makes moving around in this world a little bit better when I don't have to worry about the big giant walls and everything. And also, if I mess anything up in this world, it's not messed up in the regular world. So if I accidentally click something, it's not messing up our actual, ancient city. Anyways, something else I want to bring up about the chests as well. A lot of these things, you have to place them in this way. If I were to have bones in my inventory and shift click them, they're going to go up into the first slot that there are bones, which means that these were placed in individually, possibly by different people. Because if you are placing stuff in, why would you spread it out like this? And it's not like, oh, you can only put 2 bones in at a time. There's different numbers. There's 12 bones, 2 bones, 6 bones, 2 bones, 7 coal, 4 coal. So I'm going to assume that the placement of these objects are not by the same person, or at least not at the same instance. So it could be different people. It could be different times. So that's pretty interesting. What does this all mean, though? Well, let's look at this one. I think it's pretty telling, to be honest with you. What do you use coal for? Well, you use coal for burning. What do you use bones for? Well, you can use bones for bone meal, but also in the real world, what's left over from animals are usually the bones, so I guess you could burn the bones too. Bottle of enchanting, that comes in handy if you're enchanting or you want XP. The bottle of regeneration, that's useful. I mean, if you get hurt, you definitely want to regen fast, right? And other side, or I guess this one's cat. The other one's other side. Cat is a weird one because cat's kind of a, I don't know, just kind of a weird music disc. But it doesn't matter. What I'm getting to is this. I think the main giveaway here is the armor and the lead. Both of those things suggest horse. You've got bones. Bones, to me, suggest the leftovers of a dead animal. Maybe the horse. Who knows? Coal could be used for fires, and candles could also be used to put on altars and up there and all around. I think these chests are either the leftovers of offerings or offerings to be made. Now this one, the bones could be leftovers of offerings from animals, along with coal and of course candles you can place. With this one, you'll notice it's got amethyst shards and echo shards, which are not in the other one, along with glowberries. I think these are also offerings, but instead of being burned, they're put in a chest. So I think this is more of a ceremonial structure. Now, before anyone jumps into the comment section, I am actually using ceremonial and ritual, okay, those two terms to mean sort of an act of reverence, okay? I'm not using ritual and ceremonial to mean that I just don't know, which is what a lot of archaeologists do. I am meaning acts of reverence, okay? So this isn't brushing your teeth every day. This isn't taking a shower every day. Those are rituals, all right, as well. I mean acts of reverence for someone or something, okay? It's interesting that we have the depiction of the warden's head right here in the middle of this structure, this very official structure, by the way. So I think the chests are offerings and or remains of offerings. So you can grab a candle and place it if you want. You can put your bones in here when you're done with burning whatever animal. You can put amethyst shards and echo shards, which you have to go and collect. Same thing with glowberries. These are all offerings and sacrifices. I think this structure is ceremonial in nature. And by ceremonial, I mean some sort of act of reverence. And because it's so big, and because it would take people, a lot of people to build it, or at least a lot of organized labor, I think this is an official ceremonial structure. We will get into unofficial later, but I definitely think that this is official ceremonial structures. Okay, let's go look at the other red, which is over in C7. Here we are at the other red structure. All right, same thing, warden head in the middle, left and right fires, and wha-bam. We have different things now. We've got glowberries, another lead, disc fragments, sculk sensors, and the like. Now, if you're worried about these items being different from the original ancient city that I copied this over into the creative world from, it's not. I already checked. These are all the same items. You also have a used diamond hoe, echo shards, and soul torches. Now, what does this mean? These are definitely different than the last time, and it's not so full. I mean, it's more full than some of the other chests in the city, but this one is pretty sparse. So this could mean a couple different things. One, this structure may not be used as heavily as the other one, or it could be a newer structure. That's another way to go. Maybe they just haven't acquired the amount of stuff. It could also be that these things get periodically cleared out. Periodically cleared out, right? And so this might be some leftovers or some new stuff in here. Could be any number of things. I think the structure generally is going to be the same, an official ceremonial structure. However, I think because we don't have any bones or anything like that, perhaps the sacrifices or offerings are a little different, right? We've got glowberries, we have sculk sensors of all things, but we also have the hoe, which of course you can use to harvest sculk. Echo shards, soul torches. This might be slightly different this might show that things are slightly different when it comes to the ceremonial aspect of this building. So red A1 and red C7, they might be different. They also might be looted as well. So there's that too. One thing I do want to point out, no, not that one, this one here. The disc frags. We're actually going to run into more disc fragments throughout this entire building, and that's pretty interesting because it's never a whole disc, it's just pieces of the disc, which suggests a couple different things. The main thing is that if you have fragments of the same disc but in different buildings, you can make the assumption that those buildings are in existence at the same time. Whether they were built at the same time or whether they were used at the same time, who knows? But they were all in existence at the same time because they all have the same stuff in them, or at least deposited in them. The other thing is that this might be a form of some sort of ritual destruction. And you're wondering, what the heck is ritual destruction? And how does that play into this? Well, have you ever seen somebody christen a brand new boat? You know, like the big carriers and ships and stuff like that. They usually smack it with a wine bottle and break the wine bottle, right? Or how about weddings where they break plates? Or if you're an archaeologist, how about the ceremonial destruction of structures when you leave, when people leave them, right? There's all kinds of ritual destruction of items to christen new things, to, you know, close out old things. There is a precedent for breaking stuff in order to sacrifice it for some sort of inanimate object or some sort of function or something like that. So that's what I think is going on here. I think those disc fragments are broken specifically and purposefully, and I think they're in other buildings all over the place because all those buildings were at the same time or up at the same time. Whether or not they were all christened at the same time, who knows? But they all existed at the same time. Okay, so there we go. Red building is some sort of official ceremonial structure. That's what I'm saying. Let's move on to the light blue. I'm sorry, not light blue, regular blue. Light blue is a different building. Okay, so here we are at the light blue. See, I just did it again. Here we are at the regular blue building. Oh man. I'm going to leave most of these mistakes in too, because why not? Okay, so blue. Let me flip to that page. All right. Yes, I took extensive notes. So interestingly enough, it is a smaller building. You don't need as much organization to build something like this. We'll get into sort of more of the structures and things like that when we actually do the restoration. But I want to point out the chest. This is A2. And look at what we got. This is interesting. We've got amethyst shards, bones, and coal, soul torches, and some sculk blocks, and a hoe, and a candle, which does line up with the ceremonial structures, the ceremonial red structures. And if I hop up here, look what's just beyond. Okay, so that's pretty interesting. Its proximity to a red structure suggests that this might have some sort of connection. At least that's what I'm thinking, especially when they share so many of the same items. So, what does that mean? Was this another ritual structure or ceremonial structure? And to be honest with you, I don't think so. We don't have an altar. We don't have candles set up. We don't have things set up to suggest any kind of ceremony taking place here. But we do have ceremonial objects or ritual type objects. So what I think is going on here is, believe it or not, I think it's storage. I think it's some sort of ritual storage or storage of ritual things. And who would do that? Who would store, oh, banner's in the way. Who would store ritual items? Well, priests might. You know, at churches, modern churches, you have priests with, you know, their ceremonial garb and stuff like that they own, that they keep, you know, themselves. So maybe that's what's going on here. I think this might be some sort of storage, maybe even a residence, but this is only one of 4 different buildings. So let's go check out the rest. Okay, so here we are. We've got empty books, coal, horse armor, and a saddle. Okay. So the saddle and the horse armor suggests that someone is riding a horse and needs to armor it, or at least make it look good, right? So when it comes to sacrifice, you know, if you could always make the animal look good. The Greeks used to do that with gilding horns and stuff like that. But the armor also has a functional aspect too. So this is possibly somebody using a horse to get around. Get around an ancient city? That seems odd, right? Pretty odd. But then you've got things like torches and empty books. Now, the books can be used for enchanting, and we will run into enchanted books later, but you can also use the books to make notes and or write things down. So you have somebody who's using a horse, writing things down, and possibly needing coal to make torches or whatever. I don't know about you, but when I explore the overworld, I like to have torches on hand. And when I was going over this ancient city here, I took a lot of notes. So I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that whoever was using this structure here, this blue A4 structure, was some sort of explorer. Now, does that mean this is some sort of explorer's storage? Some sort of explorer's house? Don't know. It is definitely big enough to live in. I mean, when we look at the villagers' houses, they're significantly smaller than this, so it's possible that this was a residence. In that case, this would be an explorer's residence. And the other blue, which is over there, could be a priest residence. And look at how close to the red structure that one is versus this one. That might also be why there's different items. So this structure, the blue structure that we have here, might be the residence in this place. It might also be storage, but I'm starting to lean towards residence. And I think A2 is priest or some sort of religious residence, and A4 here is some sort of explorer's residence. But these aren't the only ones. Let's go check out C6. Here we are at C6. Now, if these are different places that have different residents, there's going to be different things in this chest. Oh, look at that. No horse armor, no coal, no shards, but we do have books, bones, a record disc of all things with cat yet again, and then we have swift sneak. Oh, 1 and 2. Okay. Now these of course are used to help you get around quicker in the ancient city when sneaking. So that's interesting. But who knows what's going on here? Bones are interesting. Bones we do see in that ceremonial structure again. And we do have cat in the ceremonial structure. So that lines up with the A2 blue building. But then we also have the books, which also lines up with the A4 building. And then we have Swift Sneak, which would help out an explorer as well. So, yeah. What's going on here? Well, the empty books you need for taking notes or recording things. Bones, we know from the red building, might be the remnants of sacrifices. Okay. And the record was also found in these structures, the ceremonial structures. It's possible that this is some sort of archivist or record keeper for maybe the ceremonial structures, maybe other things. I'm leaning towards some sort of record keeper, some sort of archivist. You're archiving the bones, you're archiving books, maybe. That's a tough one to really sort of go off of or to come up with off of that stuff, but that's kind of what I'm leaning towards. It's definitely some sort of, again, maybe some sort of residence, because these seem like weird items, possibly personal. I mean, the record you could play, but you could also play that record at the ceremonial structure too, which makes me lean a little bit more towards someone who is helping out or someone who is archiving. So I'm going to tentatively say an archival residence, but there's not enough stuff here to really tell me for sure. And then finally, let's check out I3. I3. All right, so if this is a residence, then that means someone lived here, had a job. Let's see what this has. This has, ooh. Books, echo shards, bottle of enchanting, disc fragments, sculk catalyst. Oh, and armor. Oh, pretty decent armor too. Well, so this has things that are different than the other ones. Namely, sculk catalyst, echo shards, armor, obviously, and disc fragments. It still has books, just like the rest, and, oh, it's got other sides, so it doesn't have cat, but it's got a record disc. This might also be an explorer's residence as well. There's a lot of stuff here. There's a lot of recording. Maybe some sort of scientist? Maybe some sort of researcher? I mean, you get some armor, you get some bottles of enchanting, I guess. Well, or it might be an enchanter. Maybe they're getting the books ready to enchant. It's a tough call. Echo shards are interesting. You got to collect those. Well, I don't know how you even get those other than collecting them from these chests. Catalysts are interesting. Makes me think that maybe it is a researcher doing some sort of research. I'm not too sure. The armor suggests explorer, especially with like echo shards and, well, yeah, armor suggests explorer. Bottle of enchanting suggests maybe an enchanter along with the books. Also, with the books and the armor suggests explorer. Echo shards, sculk catalysts, those suggest possibly some sort of researcher or somebody doing something with sculk. This one's a tough one as well. Let's take an aside real quick to discuss the echo shards. Now, at the time of recording the interpretation, as I walked around the city, I forgot about what the echo shards are used for. These crystals are used to manufacture the recovery compass. Now, the recovery compass is an item used to direct a player to the last known location of their death to recover their items. Now, we don't know if the inhabitants of this ancient city knew how to manufacture a recovery compass, but we do find compasses within the city, so it is a possibility. Now, this would mean a lot of things when it comes to the inhabitants' understanding of death, but if they did know how to manufacture the recovery compass, this begs the question, why don't we find any? What's the final verdict on the blue buildings? I think the blue buildings are some sort of residence. The chests are storage for those residents, and I think they're specific jobs that are living in these residents. I think A2 is definitely some sort of like a priest or ritual residence. So someone who is doing things at A2, or I'm sorry, A1, red A1 because of its proximity. A4 seems like an explorer of some sort. C6 might be archivist. It's hard to tell. And this one's hard to tell. It might be a little bit of a combination of all of the above. What is it near? Let's see here. Well, it's near the light blue, which we might cover next, and a pink and another light blue. Well, maybe what is in light blue will tell us something. So let's do light blue. Welcome to light blue I 2, maybe? Okay, yeah, this is I4. Okay, we've got 3 used diamond hose that, I mean, those are great for using on sculk, which we do have some sculk stuff here, though none of these have silk touch. I don't know if you get these unless you have silk touch. I'm pretty sure you have to have silk touch, but yeah, whatever. Potion of regeneration. Okay, that's a good one to have. Coal. And bones. Again, lots of bones and coal, which suggests some sort of ritual connotation. And the reason why I say that, well, one, this is sort of altar-like, but not really. But this, look at this. That right there screams Warden. Specifically, Warden's chest. Now, I'm going to get into what that might mean later, but this definitely says Warden. At least the chest, you know, so the little thorax part of the warden. You've got the little rib cages and stuff. Now this one's kind of destroyed a little bit, but you definitely have that same look. It could also be the warden itself. You know, there's the head, there's the body, the little arms that stick out. But yeah, this is screaming the body portion of the warden. So what do I think is going on here? Well, you'll notice it is a big structure, another big structure, but not as big as red. The red structures are massive compared to this. This is also just one story. Granted, it's elevated, but it's still just one story, which tells me that this may also be another ceremonial structure, maybe not as official. Okay, now we've got pillars here. Pillars that sort of frame this, you know, rib cage of the warden. So yeah, I'm leaning towards this might be the entrance, just by the way that it's set up, and this is the back wall. So you're walking through the warden's chest to get into here. Yeah, that screams ceremonial structure. Okay, because you're doing some sort of really overt ritualistic type entrance. So I am going to, oh, you got little cubby holes too. I'm going to say that this is another ceremonial structure. And again, not like, I don't know, so I'm just saying ceremonial. I mean like an act of reverence type structure. And I think these, again, are some sort of, whatever's left over from sacrifice. Maybe people that died while harvesting sculk with the hose. Maybe. We do have the sculk sensors. I mean, those things trigger the warden, so you want to get rid of those if you want to sneak around without alerting the warden. So yeah, this may be some sort of ceremonial structure again, where this is the remnants of either those who were collecting things for maybe the red building or for this building, like, sacrifices and stuff like that that are being made for the warden. Now, granted, there's no fire in here, so maybe there's not a sacrifice happening in here. Maybe this is some sort of mausoleum. Maybe this little table housed someone, and that's what's left over from them. Maybe they were out collecting sculk. Okay, so this structure here, I think, is another type of ceremonial structure, and I am willing to bet maybe a mausoleum, maybe some sort of thing for the dead. I mean, you've got these little cubby holes where bodies can be laid, urns can be placed. That's pretty, I mean, I'm leaning towards that, but you know what? Let's go check out I2, I think. Yeah, I2, which is, right over here. All right, I2, same sort of construction. What do we got? Wow. 2 notch apples. Allegedly, that's what the kids call them. We got empty books. Oh, enchanted books, feather falling, and aqua affinity. Feather falling to help you not die, and aqua affinity to, I guess, also help you be more efficient underwater. 2 diamond horse armor. The 13 disc compass. Oh man, curse of binding. Oh, okay. So here we go. Whoever was wearing this, they died. Curse of binding, not curse of vanishing. Curse of vanishing means that if they died, it would have gone away with them. Curse of binding, of course, it's not used. So maybe this was made, but nobody ever used it. If this were used, I'd say, oh yeah, somebody who was wearing this died. But 2 diamond horse armor, a compass, that's diamond horse armor, armored legs, a compass, enchanted golden apple, and empty books screams explorer, right? Because you got the horse to move around on. I don't know about the disc. You got books to record, compass to get you back, It looks like the compass... Okay, I'm going to do something here. I'm going to see if the compass... Oh, look at that. Where does it point? It's not pointing anywhere. I'm an idiot. It's not pointing anywhere. Wait, what? Okay, we're gonna put that back. Yeah, so it's just pointing that way, which is east. So it's pointing east. Okay, whatever. So yeah, you got compass, which is still getting all twitchy. Man, that screams explorer, which means that I'm leaning more towards mausoleum, more towards some sort of burial chamber. This is really, really big though. This is like really, really big, okay? So you have somebody buried up there, maybe somebody down here, maybe two people in there, maybe an urn in there. Like, okay, maybe a family burial. But this is, yeah, this is screaming some sort of yeah, like a catacomb type thing. Yeah. So, okay. Well, you know what? That's 2 of 3. Let's go check out G and see what G says. G9 is where we're going. All right, G9. Okay, if this is some sort of mausoleum, some sort of crypt, though very fancy crypt, then this will also have some sort of you know, job type stuff. Quick charge. Oh. Channeling. Oh my god. So is this a warrior burial? Sculk. Another broken disc fragment. So we're ritualistically breaking things. Okay. Ritual destruction. Lots of coal. Quick charge, which I think is for your crossbows, and channeling, which is for your trident. Both of those can be used in warfare. 13, which I forget what 13 sounds like. I think that one's kind of weird sounding though. And a regenerate. Oh man, yeah. This and armor that hasn't been worn. Unbreaking through. Wow, that's actually pretty decent. This is a warrior burial, or this is what the remnants of a warrior. I would have liked to have seen bones. Maybe the coal is supposed to be cremated remains. So yeah, warrior. Maybe these are like offering spots. Maybe the warrior was here and that's offering spots on top. I don't know. But this, I mean, okay. So if you've seen the warden up close and lived, or just remember what it looked like because you respawned later, I think there are like swirling souls in the chest, which means if you're walking up through here, you are entering where souls are, right? That makes sense. So you know what? I'm gonna have to chalk it up to, and I'm gonna write this down because I forgot to write this down earlier. I am going to say that the light blue is going to be, you know, crypt or tomb. That's what I think is going on here. I mean, how cool would that be if there were like banners hanging, you know, hanging from these places, and when you walk through the banners, and anyways, yeah. So that's what I think is going on. I think this is some sort of burial complex, or burial structure. That's what I think. Oh, what's up here? No, stop. Don't get sidetracked. So yeah, so I'm going to go with burial structure. All right.